If you've ever felt something so deeply you had to make art out of it, you're already up next. There is a moment before the poem, before the song, before the sentence that finally makes sense, when something happens inside the body first. A tightening in the chest, a memory that arrives without permission, a joy that feels too large for ordinary language, a grief that refuses to stay private. And somehow, humans decided that these invisible internal storms should be given shape, that they should be sung, written, performed, shared. Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Henderson, and you're listening to Up Next on TMC 105.1, where ideas, creativity, and culture meet what's coming next. Today, we're exploring that mysterious translation, how emotions and lived experiences become poems and songs and plays and stories, how raw feeling becomes a structured form, and why some moments insist on becoming art. Before we begin today's conversation, I want to take a brief personal moment. Today marks 12 years since I founded Tutin Cans Philippines, a project that began as an idea and grew into a community of artists, students, and collaborators. 12 years ago, I built something with a small name and a big hope. It began with conversations about theater, about art, about education, about what it means to build culture in a place that is always becoming. I didn't know then what 12 years would hold. I didn't know the students, the artists, the classrooms, the studios, the stages, the late nights, the quiet doubts, the unexpected triumphs. What I knew was this: stories matter. Young people matter. That creating spaces for imagination is a form of care. Tutin Cans is never just a company. It is a practice, a belief that art can be rigorous and generous, that education can be creative, that culture can be built patiently, collaboratively, imperfectly, by people who choose to stay and make things here. Over 12 years, it has held workshops and festivals, rehearsals and research, performances and productions, students finding their voices, and artists finding their communities. It has been a piece of string across generations, passing knowledge, curiosity, and courage from one person to another. Today, I'm grateful for the collaborators who believed, for the students who trusted, for the communities who made this work meaningful, and for the version of myself 12 years ago who decided to begin. This is not an anniversary of completion. This is an anniversary of continuation. Tutin Cans is still listening, still asking questions, still building conversations across time, across disciplines, across people. And we are still always up next.
You're stuck in all these circles, thinking you are so much better than any other version. Got you stuck in rainy weather. Well, I guess you never grew up, and I guess you never learned your lessons. You didn't pay attention 'cause you thought you wouldn't miss someone from
Long before we had publishing platforms, before we had streaming services, before we had academic theories about narrative and effect, we had stories, chants, lullabies, epics. We had people sitting around fires trying to explain what it felt like to lose someone, to fall in love, to fear the dark, to hope for rain. Art, in many ways, is the oldest emotional technology. It is how we store feelings outside the body, how we send emotions across time, how someone centuries ago can still make us cry today. And yet, the act of turning feeling into form is not automatic. It requires choices. It requires distance. It requires craft. A feeling is chaos. A poem is architecture. We like to romanticize the artist as someone struck by lightning. A songwriter wakes up at 3 a.m. with a melody. A poet scribbles a perfect line in a notebook. A writer channels heartbreak into a flawless chapter. But most artists will tell you that's not how it really works. Inspiration is often messy and unreliable, contradictory. Feelings don't arrive in neat stanzas. They arrive as fragments, a smell, a scene, a line overheard in a jeepney, a text message, a silence. The work of the artist is not just to feel, but to decide what to do with the feeling. There's something important here. Experience is not the same as memory, and memory is not the same as art. Experience is what happens. Memory is how we remember it. Art is how we reshape it. Two people can live the same moment and write completely different poems or songs about it. Memory bends time. Art bends memory. And this bending is not lying. It is how we make and find meaning. When we write a song about heartbreak, we are not documenting a breakup like a police report. We are searching for metaphor, rhythm, shape, for something that captures the emotional truth, even if the details are rearranged. So let's slow down here. Think of an emotion: love, anger, longing, grief, nostalgia, jealousy, wonder. Now think of a song that carries that emotion. What transformed the feeling into art is not the feeling itself, but the structure. A chorus that repeats like a memory, looping, a stanza that breaks like a breath, catching, a narrative arc that mirrors healing. Form is emotional architecture. A love song is not just love, it is love arranged in time. A poem is not just grief, it is grief shaped by line breaks and silence. This is why editing is not betrayal. Editing is love for the feeling, love enough to give it a body that can survive outside you. But there is a complication. Our feelings are not private islands. They involve other people. When we write about heartbreak, we are also writing about someone else. When we write about family, we are writing about shared histories. When we write about politics, we are writing about communities. So turning experience into art is also an ethical act. What do we reveal? What do we protect? What do we fictionalize? Who gets to tell which story? Every story, every poem, and every song is a negotiation between honesty and responsibility. And then, after all the writing and revising, the work leaves you. It meets an audience. Someone else hears your song and thinks of their own lover. Someone reads your poem and maps it into their own grief. The feeling is no longer only yours. Art is emotional migration. The feeling travels from body to page, from voice to speaker, from one life to another, and sometimes the audience teaches the artist what the work is really about. If you're listening as a student, an emerging writer, a songwriter in your bedroom with a guitar, a poet with a notes app full of drafts, here's something important. You do not need to wait for big emotions. Small feelings are powerful. Quiet experiences matter. Art is not only made from trauma, it is made from observation, curiosity, affection, boredom, wonder. The discipline is noticing. The courage is shaping. The generosity is sharing. So today, with our guest, we'll talk about the moment a feeling becomes a line. A line becomes a verse becomes something that can be sung back to you by someone you've never met. Because feelings happen to us. Art is what we decide to do with them. I'm Sarah Henderson at the Tops Media Center, TMC 105.1. This is Up Next. Let's begin. So today we'll explore this emotional engine of creativity, and joining me is an indie musician from Cebu City, Philippines, who defies the rules of genre. By mixing truth with fiction, she creates stories that resonate with her audience, especially those who've received the worst that life has to offer. Up next, Kate Livewire.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Kate. Welcome to Up Next.
Yes.
How do you usually describe yourself? Singer, songwriter, poet, writer, artist?
Mostly writer. I describe myself as a writer first and foremost. I actually shy away from describing myself as a singer or an instrumentalist because writing, I like to say that writing is my one and only skill.
And I'm sure there are more, but okay, we're listening.
Maybe I'm being a bit humble, but I have very high standards for myself. Mm-hmm. So when I say that writing is the only skill I have, it's the only one I've really focused on honing over the years.
I do think that many artists have this really high standard that they, they put over themselves, yes. And even that they've done so well, mm-hmm. It's like they're never really contented. They keep looking for, they always find faults.
Yes.
That's one. And then you just keep looking for what's better and yes. What's next, right?
Yes.
So you've been writing from feeling for a while. When did you start writing anyway?
Well, if we're going to start from the very beginning, it's probably from when I was a tiny child, beyond like what I can consciously remember. But at the same time, I don't really like to credit that as my beginning because, everyone as a child, you're like writing little scribbles, you're drawing little things, you're making up little songs. And for me, that was just a natural thing for me to do as a child. I was a voracious reader and mm-hmm. I loved music. So I just imitated what I read and what I heard, and I was like, hey, I can do that. Of course, not as good as professionals, but I had I had a big ego back then.
But I think it's also not fair to compare kids with professionals.
Yes.
But you've obviously had that great connection with words, yes. Right? But before we continue, someone saying hi, Kate. This is at Heavy Handed Hex.
Oh, that's actually the person, my longtime friend, who created the cover art for my album Synlab. So, and they also created the animated lyric video for my debut single, the song that we heard earlier, What We've Done So
Yes,
Far.
what we've done so far.
Yes.
Thank you so much, for allowing me to use that
Of
for my
course.
tribute to Tin Cans. So, what's the name of this friend? Are we allowed to say it out loud?
Their name online is Heavy Handed Hex, so you can follow them basically anywhere using that username. And they're just the most amazing artists. And they're an illustrator and animator as well. So I have been very lucky to have them collaborate with me on all of my projects.
We all need a friend, right?
Yes.
Someone who supports what we do. Yes, every artist actually needs one. So heavy-handed Hex.
Yes.
Yes. So let's zoom into that moment when an experience stops being just something that happened and
Yes.
starts becoming a poem or a song. So what was the first moment when you realized that you wanted to write, whether that's poetry or a song?
I actually started with poems
Yes.
way before songwriting. And it mostly came out of boredom and loneliness, just like this urge to fill an empty space in my heart. I had a lot of feelings, obviously.
Yeah.
And I figured, poems are a great way to get those abstract feelings out. And I had no clue what I was doing, but I realized that if I didn't have an output for all the feelings, then they would just like explode me. So when I started writing poems, I was just trying to put into words what I was feeling, but I was a bit pretentious because, poetry. So I was like, oh, I have to be like, flowery, and I have to make it sound really abstract and cool.
Did you have some sort of a workshop or training or
Not
even
at all.
school? No,
No.
you just felt it's like your body just dictated that
Yes.
you have to turn these feelings into words.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. And so around 13, that's when I started writing like seriously.
Still very young. That's like first year high school.
Yes, actually. And so I started writing poems, and luckily my friends were very supportive. I genuinely would not be here without their support. But then I started thinking, hey, like, what if I add melodies to my poems? And I was like, wait, so basically songs. Basically what
Yes.
what I want to write is songs.
So when did that happen? So from poetry to songwriting?
Within the same year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came up with my first song because of a childhood friend of mine. And she was like, hey, like, I have this song I started to write. I have the first 4 lines. Can you finish it? And I was like, sure, I guess. I had no, yes, I had been adding melodies to my poems, but I hadn't really thought of it in a songwriter way. But then because of her, I was kind of prompted. And so I was like, okay, I've taken this on. Like, I've kind of promised her to finish the song. So I took it very seriously. I got about halfway through the song, and I promptly forgot about it for a year.
But that was your first collaboration.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And a year later, I woke up with the melody in my head, and I was like, what is that song? It's so familiar. And I realized it was a song I had started writing. So I looked at my notebook, and I was like, oh, I never finished it. So I finished it. And then I realized, like, it was so fulfilling. It was such a fulfilling moment. And I was like, oh, I want more of this feeling. I want to feel this fulfillment over and over again. So I just started writing more songs.
At that point, was did that fulfillment come with Oh, I've written this song and I'd like to share it with others.
Not yet. I think that came later because I've always been a very private person. I still am. I like to say that the a lot of people say like, "Oh, your songs are very personal." Like I would never be able to be that vulnerable through my art. And the trick to that is that I always fool myself into thinking I'll never share it with other people. So I'm always like, no, this is just for me, and so I get to write whatever, and then I do end up sharing it with people, and then I'm shocked when they're like, oh, that was such a personal, vulnerable thing you said, and I'm like, oh no, you're perceiving me. So yeah.
So, but what kinds of feelings usually push you to write? Is there like a pattern? You know how they say, for certain artists that they have to go through heartbreaks,
Right.
and that's when they get inspired to write songs or to paint and all that. It's like they have to go through pain. What is it for you?
For me, it's a mix of things because yes, I do have those moments where it's like, oh, this huge emotional thing happened, need to vent it, need to get it out of me. So I write a song or I write a story or whatever. But I found that I don't need that. I don't need a big emotional moment for me to create. For me, I'm a storyteller. I'm a storyteller at heart. So I don't need the things to happen to me. I can just observe what's going on in life around me, or I can just make something up in my head and be like, oh, that's a cool story to tell, that's a cool concept, and then I just try to explore it. And for me, I just like exploring what's interesting, or like I especially love exploring stuff that might not necessarily controversial, but like stuff that's
Maybe challenges.
challenges
The norm.
the norm, and maybe that we don't talk about as much. We don't like talking about trauma. We don't like talking about the flaws in people, or the dark side to different kinds of twisted love. And I like exploring that because for me that's what's interesting to tell a story about.
And yet you've mentioned earlier that, people who actually listen to your songs or able to hear you sing your songs would say that it's very personal to you. And then you commented about being like outside of the situation and just like, being outside looking in. And it doesn't have to be your own story. So what is the trick to call it a trick, no? As if it's like magic. But anyway, what would help so that you would be able to connect to something that you have observed and turn it into your own?
For me, I realized through my storytelling that most times, even if you haven't experienced something like a specific situation, there are still ways to empathize, right? Everyone has lost something or someone to some extent. You don't have to necessarily go through the grief of like losing your parent or losing a sibling, but you can empathize with it. And for me, like I said, like it's very vulnerable and very personal when I write, but at the same time, it's not always drawing directly from my own experience. And the thing I like to do is, whether or not it comes from my own experience, I always like to fictionalize a little bit. So perhaps we'll get into this later about like ethics and everything. But I always like to fictionalize a little bit for my own privacy. And if I'm drawing from like a friend's story or just a stranger's story, to protect their privacy. Obviously, I'm not going to be invading their privacy by just exposing everything. But if it's not coming from my own personal life, I always try to find a way to relate to it and empathize with it, so that it's not just me repeating someone else's experiences, but it's me speaking from the heart about something, for example, something that could happen to me that I would be able to feel very deeply, but it just hasn't yet, and hopefully probably will never.
I guess vulnerability is really like a tool and even a superpower of artists and creatives, you know, and it's the same. I'm coming from the theater world.
Right.
And for actors, for example, when you're given a role, you actually have to tap into your emotions.
Yes.
And if the situation or the role has to go through situations that you've not experienced yet in life, you have to find your own connection. And I suppose that would be close to how
Yes.
songwriting would be like. And I guess we can say that emotion is our raw material.
Yes, I agree.
You know. So maybe I'd like to, you know, I'd like you to walk us through like what happens when an experience turns into a song for you,
Like maybe
your own
the
experience.
steps.
Yes. How? So what would that? Is it immediate? Because you know people say that, you know, it just happens. Is it
No.
immediate, accidental? You know. But anyway, for you, does it take long or?
It depends because, for example, one of the songs on my
I
album.
was just gonna ask,
Yes.
like, can you like point to one song maybe, and we can discuss that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we can start with the song "Without You."
Yes. Okay.
I was gonna say that song took me one sitting to write, and by that I mean I don't mean like one sitting as in I sat down for a few hours and finished it. I mean, I started to feel the idea coming out of me while I was just like strumming on my guitar, and I was like, okay, something's coming. I pressed record on my phone. I sang the song. The lyrics spilled out of me as I was singing, and then I was done.
Wow.
So one take,
So
one
that,
sitting.
for that, it's as if everything was just there. Everything
Yes.
just fell into place and created that song. Whatever it was, environment, emotions, you know, the right headspace, and then it just created that beautiful masterpiece of Without You. And which one do you think of the songs that you've published anyway? Which one took like the longest?
The longest was probably childhood.
Childhood, okay.
Because I started writing it when I was around 16 and I finished it right before my 18th birthday.
Oh wow.
And so that's the thing, like on one end of the spectrum, I have written songs in one take several times already. But on the other side of the spectrum, sometimes it takes years to finish a song because I also don't like the idea of forcing it out of me or like forcing it to be finished. Whenever that happens, it does not turn out well.
So when you created your album, which was out last November,
yes,
am I right?
Yes.
So when you did that and you've published it, did you actually have to work with deadlines, self-imposed deadlines at least? You know? Yes. So there's that discipline as well. So there's that part where you don't want to force anything. But I think that, you know, putting a timeline or a deadline or pressure isn't that forcing?
Well, for me, I don't put deadlines on writing.
Okay.
On writing the songs, I never put deadlines. I just do what feels right. If it takes time, it takes time. But when it comes to getting it out there, so recording, producing, distributing, I always put deadlines on those because if I don't, then it never gets done.
So true.
And for me, recording is the most painful part of the process because I'm very finicky with vocals, and I'm a perfectionist, so it will drive me insane. It will drive me up the wall. But if I keep letting my perfectionism get to me, then it's never going to be ready. So I always set deadlines. And for my album, we actually crammed a little bit because I told my producer, Stereo, who is amazing, by the way, you should check him out.
Stereo. Well,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's ST3R10.
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
had to like.
I hope you all got that.
Yes.
So E and O are numbers.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
Um,
ST3RI.
10.
Oh, R10.
Yes.
Okay.
I hope I got that right. I'm sorry, Stereo. But
We'll definitely check him out.
yes. And I told him, because we started working on the album 4 years ago, but we both got busy with life. I was graduating from college. I was, starting my career. But last year I told him I really want to finish the album this year. And it was supposed
You
to.
did.
Yes, thank God. But we were supposed to release the debut single, so what we've done so far.
Which you did in August.
Yes,
Right?
in August. We were supposed to release it in July, actually. So we got a bit delayed with that because that song was I like to call it the anchor for the album, because we were trying to figure out the sound for the production.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out what direction we wanted to go. And then I recorded vocals for the whole album within the span of 3 months. So we were cramming, yeah. But
you've done so well, and you were
Thank
able
you.
to. Well, okay, you've met your deadline.
Yes.
Anyway, that's a good thing.
yes.
But the best part is the fact that you're able to create the album that you really wanted.
yes.
And I think that's the most important thing, because I feel that personally, you have to be able to love your work first before you
Yes.
can even care about what other people think.
I agree.
But now I'm sure that so many people are interested as to, Without You, the song that you wrote and finished in one sitting. So everyone, this is Kate Livewire, Without You.
I think sometimes, and
that was Kate Live Wire, everyone, without you. So we've just been discussing with Kate here. She's here with us live at TMC 105.1. Up next. Hi to Charlene Virlove. Hi there. Art is emotional migration. Yes, no truer words. Thanks, Charlene, for listening in. Hi, Julie. Thank you for watching. And I hope you can drop your questions or comments on the comment section. We are live here on Facebook, but if you missed this, you can catch us later on YouTube. This is Up Next. I'm Sarah Henderson, and I'm with Kate Live Wire. We're talking about songwriting from feeling to form. So emotions arrive first, almost like weather inside the body, but weather isn't yet language. So I'm curious about what happens when you start translating that feeling into words and sound. The experience of how you make words or melody, is it just documenting it without just documenting it? So earlier you said you try to fictionalize.
Yes.
But I guess pairing it with your own experiences and of course your own observations. So what's the difference between writing the truth and just writing memory?
For me, wait, I would like to clarify.
I think you know how it's like we'd say that, oh, this is my truth. This is how I see things and all that. But that would be coming from our experiences and how we feel about things. And truth can be subjective.
Yes.
Yes, very subjective. But then it could also be just you having memorized things, you know, something that came to you, and you can just be writing that rather than you pulling out from what's in your core and sharing that. I guess we have different styles in writing. Maybe what is truthful to Kate Livewire?
I think for me, what's truthful is being honest about how you feel. Because, like you said, truth is subjective. We have different viewpoints of every situation. But if you can't at least be truthful about how you feel about a certain situation, then you're lying not only to other people, but to yourself.
But how does that work in songwriting? You know, because like when you fictionalize, it's like, oh, is that still truth? I guess the question is that, okay, when we write songs, and obviously we listen to so many songs and they become like our themes and all that. Obviously, as you've mentioned, some of them are from observation or, you know, from other people's experiences, and you turn them into your own. Now, how can that remain truthful?
I think in those cases, I have to stay true to the emotions of the situation. For example, if I draw from a friend's experience, a life experience of theirs, I always take into account their feelings about the situation. While I fictionalize for their privacy, I always remember what the truth of the emotion was. Because if I'm trying to write about their experience, but I'm like, oh, well, actually, like, it wasn't sad, that's not being truthful. It is, like, for example, if you're grieving about someone and you're trying to play it off as, oh, well, it didn't matter at all, like, it didn't matter to me, that's no longer truthful. But you have to acknowledge that there are certain emotions that come with the stories you try to tell, whether they're your own or whether they're someone else's.
When you do, you know, your with observation, you're really just looking, you know, you're third person.
Yes.
But do you actually do active research,
Like
active
interview,
research, interviewing
interrogate.
people. Like how, I'm just wondering, have you done that?
No, I
Not
would be
yet? I
mortified.
say
I would
not
be
yet.
oh god, just me, searching for inspiration, just like,
Uh-huh.
hey, what's the most painful? No.
Yeah, can you imagine? I mean,
I would
obviously
be
you have
mortified.
very good friends, very close
Yes,
friends,
they
and
are very
I'm
good.
sure some of them have shared their saddest
Mhm.
stories with you, and you'd probably be asking questions and all that.
Mhm.
I guess you were talking about ethics earlier.
Yes.
I guess it's like yeah. I wonder, like, we draw inspiration from anything and
Mhm.
everything.
Mhm.
Now, can we actually use that? Someone else's pain and sorrow and suffering and all that
Mhm.
as inspiration for our own work in music.
I think we can, but the ethics comes in with like the fictionalization part because of course I'm not going to say the specific details of like, oh, your boyfriend left you because this scandal happened, and like, it's very specific things that would make people realize, oh, like if you know me or you know my friend, then you'd be like able to point out, oh, you're writing about this situation. I think I mentioned it earlier, but I like to take the essence of whatever story it is that I'm trying to tell. It doesn't have to be, for example, loss is at the heart of any grief, right? But it doesn't have to be specifically about losing a father. It can be about losing a friend. It can be about losing a partner. It can be about losing a pet. It doesn't
Correct.
have to be the specific details. You just have to maintain the essence of the story. And if you want to fictionalize a lot of it for the sake of privacy, then go ahead and do it.
I think it's also important. You've just mentioned it's like, loss doesn't have to be like, for example, loss of a father, a boyfriend, a husband, or something like that. It can be a pet and a friend. And I think it doesn't even have to be death as well. It can be
Yes.
just someone moving to another place
Yes.
and you won't be seeing each other anymore as
Mhm.
you used to. We've experienced all sorts or levels and
Mhm.
situations of a certain emotion.
Yes.
And I guess sometimes it's difficult for people to understand how we try to curate these emotions
Mhm.
and we assign, it's like compartmentalizing, but not really. Others would say that it's like putting emotions and situations in a box, and it's
Mm.
like you just know that when this is what you have to call on. For example, we'll keep with the example of
Yes.
loss and
Yes.
grief. That's where you get things from, and that
Mhm.
from that box. But people don't understand that,
Yeah.
they and I guess we all don't know what an artist have to go through in
Mhm.
order to achieve the art. For example, for actors, you have to live the emotion
Yeah.
live in front of an audience. And of course, you have to rehearse that over and over again. And I guess people think that, oh, for songwriters, it can be just, oh, it rhymes, it works. That's one, right? Because
Sometimes.
it's like the notion of, oh, songs should rhyme,
Mhm.
like and then many do. So, and then it's like, oh, you're just pretending. Again, you're just
Right.
pretending to have that story or to feel that pain.
Mhm.
But I feel that the process of going through, like
Yes.
turning emotions into an artwork,
Mhm.
that's not easy. Otherwise, it won't be anything important, or it can't be art anymore
Yes.
if we can just do it like that. Do you start with words first or melody first? How's the process for you?
A lot of people ask me that.
Oh.
And my
So now I'm asking, and
Yes.
we're recording.
Yes, exactly. For me, it's both.
Uh-huh.
They usually come at the same time,
Wow.
like
Okay.
probably milliseconds apart. So sometimes the words are like slightly ahead or the melody is slightly ahead, but they usually come hand in hand for me.
But there's really no rule, right? For
Yes,
that.
there's no
Like,
rule.
what works for you, but
Mm-hmm.
that's it. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's not even like a permanent thing. It's not like this works for me all the time.
Yes.
It could be that that's what works for you at that particular moment, and that is your
Exactly.
now. So I, yeah. So now you're saying it goes together. I was just thinking, well, while you're doing that, do you see yourself as someone who edits on the spot as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's I like to think of it as a strength, but admittedly it can also get in the way a lot of
Yeah.
the time because my
Mhm.
inner editor is always on, whether I'm writing prose, poetry, or songs.
And sometimes because you're editing, you keep on probably being too critical about
Yes.
things. So you're not just allowing yourself
Mhm.
to explore, experiment, and just experience failure.
Yes, you keep interrupting your own process.
Uh-huh. And is that what's happening?
Sometimes, but I also find it handy. Well,
Mhm.
okay. If it comes to writing prose, it definitely gets in the way, causes me
Yeah.
writer's block. But poetry and songwriting, I tend to put less pressure on myself because I think the
Mhm.
pressure, I think the inner editor is caused by the pressure I put on myself. Like we
Uh-huh.
talked about earlier, standards, high standards for artists, or like that I put on myself. And with poetry and songwriting, I think I don't put that pressure on myself because I'm just trying to write from the heart. I'm
Mhm.
just trying to turn my feelings and my observations into a story that's interesting enough to listen to. Not just not really for the public, but for myself. I want it to be something that I enjoy first.
Mhm.
And for me, I think that and I lost my train of thought. I'm
It's
sorry.
fine. Do you like in a way journal your, using poetry or
I used to.
you
I
used
don't
to? Was that when
anymore.
you were younger?
Yes.
Because I used to do that as well.
Yes.
I don't know. It's like, especially in high school, it's
Mhm.
like you have to write the date and even the time. I used to do that. And it's like I have to, this is about the feeling that I have right
Yes.
now. And it's like I have to be able to look back and remember that day and that time.
Mhm.
And I think that's like partly the reason why I'm so good with remembering dates, and moments.
Okay.
I don't know. Are you
I
able to connect that as well?
I would never write down the time or the date.
I
So,
did. Time. Oh my God.
so looking back, I'm just like I'm vaguely familiar when
Uh-huh.
this was written, but I'm just like I was around 9 to 12, which is obviously like a big chunk of time.
Yes.
But
And
I just remember like little I remember phases of my life
Mhm.
rather than specific dates or times.
or moments.
Yes,
Yeah.
moments in
Okay.
time.
But no, I was gonna say, well, it doesn't probably apply to you. You're so much younger. But during my time, there was no social media, so there's no way of like writing something to post online or
Right.
anything. And in fact, having a journal or a diary of poetry just meant that I'm not sharing this with anyone.
Mm.
It's also something that I'd like to read, but I obviously had a collection of those that I'm willing to share with
Right.
with others, sometimes
Right.
with boys. So that's it. But as a kid, what was your favorite subject? The period you were writing.
English.
Oh, not the language or in the subject in class,
Okay.
in school, but the subject for poetry.
Oh, I see.
But I can tell why your favorite
Yes.
subject is English. I can
I
tell.
love reading. But no. My favorite subject for poetry was nature. I
Yeah.
love nature. I love imagery of all things natural. So I would draw upon that a lot as a kid.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I think it makes sense because I also went into biology for my undergrad. So, and I'm hoping to work
Oh.
in sustainability. So it just like
Wow.
it's carried through.
This is another part of you
Yes.
that I would love to know more about, you know. And um obviously as an artist, I'm sure that you want to give so much of yourself to nature, to Mother Earth, to people and all that. And I think that's we live to make a difference, I guess. And
Yes.
you've started so young.
I try.
Yeah. So, but, there's that myth that they say art is pure catharsis. Um, but when does craft take over from emotion in your process?
Once the first draft is done,
Just okay.
the,
then-
the first draft doesn't have to be complete. It doesn't have to be the complete song, for example. It can just be like, oh, I have run out of the raw inspiration. And so now it's time for editing. Now it's
Okay.
time for craft. Now it's time for strategy and structure. So, yeah.
And what do you think you for those who are struggling with structure? Can you share a bit of a, like, I don't know, it's like a secret or something that you
Something
do,
helpful.
whether it's a ritual or something like that. Yeah, something helpful to anyone who's just starting and struggling. Are there things that you actually do you think help when you're struggling finding that structure?
I would say maybe this is said too much, but consume what you want to create as
Okay.
much as possible, because but I will say with a caveat, don't just consume mindlessly. Consume and observe. Notice the things that artists are doing in their craft. Notice why you like something. Because it's one thing to listen mindlessly and be like, oh yeah, I like this song. It's another to be like, oh, I see you use this wordplay, or like you did this slant rhyme instead of like an exact rhyme. And that's what makes it interesting. Or maybe the way you take the melody in a certain direction makes it stick out and scratches this itch in your brain. If you don't notice those things, you're not going to learn how to do them. And because, if you don't even know what you want to do, then how are you going to start to learn it?
Wow, that's a lot of wisdom. Yes, but I suppose when you listen and you really try to understand, it's like you learn a lot.
Yes.
And I think by learning, that's how we're also doing.
Yes.
We are able to create not because of our own intelligence or greatness. A lot of it is really being part of the community and being
Yes.
part of the world that allows us to interact with other people, to experience life and all that. So but then when it comes to editing, that means you have to let go of a lot of maybe stories, lines,
Yes.
that stanzas even that
Yes.
that sounded so great and are worthy to be published. How do you make that cut? How do you decide?
For me, it's I've written a lot of songs, a lot. And a lot of them I have decided, even if they're decent, I have decided to never release or never even do a demo that goes public.
Not even a demo.
No, because it's maybe again like standards for myself, right? But when you're creating so much, you need to prioritize.
Okay.
And maybe that's just a me problem. I don't know. But for me, I have to decide what is worth the time, the effort, the money, because I'm an indie musician and I'm self-funded. What is worth all of that effort? Because if I don't believe in the song, just like, like with me as the audience, I'm not even thinking, oh, will this, be perceived well? Will this like go viral? I'm not even thinking about that. I don't care about that. I'm thinking about my craft. Would I be proud if this song came out? Would I be proud if people came up to me and said, oh, this is like my favorite song of yours? Or would I be like, oh, that song, really? So it's a question of, do I think it's worth it, and would I be proud if this actually became something that people knew me for?
And do you think that's it's also great that you are independent? You don't really have to please
yes,
label or studio or a record company who would then dictate possibly how you should sound like, how you would dress like, and how to be not really yourself.
Yes.
But then there are the struggles. So can you share with us the struggles, and perhaps you can also enlighten us, like how can the people, the Cebuanos, the Filipinos, help an independent musician?
For me, the biggest struggle is just the finances, honestly, because I'm fine with, working and collaborating with other different kinds of artists to like have a creative vision for like how I should dress, or how I should produce my album, or how I should market myself. I'm completely fine with that. I love collaborating with other artists. But when it comes to paying for all of that, like I will say it is completely possible to do things for little to no budget. And the way you do that is through community. Give back to your community will give back to you. There's always going to be people who are like, hey, like I find your work really cool. Why don't we collaborate together and we do something DIY? We do it for free. We do it for cheap. And you create maybe something that's not perfect, but something that is pretty great, right? But for me, I have this standard for myself that I don't. There's only so many times you can ask people to do things for you for free, even if they're passionate about it, before it becomes exploitation, in my opinion. And so I am not comfortable with the idea of, always hitting up my friends like, hey, can we do this for free? Hey, can we do this for free? I don't like that idea at all. So because of my personal ethics, I have caused myself to spend a lot on my music, because I have a vision and I want to achieve it, but I also want to pay people as fairly as I can, considering that I'm working and I'm just starting out in my career, but I still want to pay them as fairly as possible.
And you've also mentioned that you had to do you had to make an investment, in order for you to create this album.
Yes.
And we're talking about the recording part of it. And can you share? Well, we've discussed this earlier, offline, but it's like, can you share, like, how did that happen? What did you do?
Well, first of all, I got a lot of great advice from Stereo, my producer.
That's Franco. Hi, Franco. Yes, I just found out your Stereo. Okay. Yes.
But yes, he knows everything in terms of like audio equipment. So I was like, hey, like, what do I need? And he told me, get an audio interface, get a good mic, invest in a DAW, which is the software you use to record. And so I did all those things. And
so you invested in your own equipment?
Yes, I did.
Wow. Okay. You're really so just by that, we know that you're really serious about, taking this recording aspect of songwriting, and really making it professional and
Yes.
trying to just share your music to not just to the Philippines, but to the rest of the world where you're going online. Yes. And after that, how did you? So you bought your equipment. So then, would that mean that you actually recorded on your own as well?
Yes, so I did get to have the honor of recording at Stereo's studio, but I found that I don't know, I'm just very uncomfortable when it's not my own space. Because the way I learned to record was at my own laptop, doing everything at my desk, having complete control over the recording process. And so it was very foreign to me. As comfortable as Stereo made me, it was very foreign to me to do that in another studio. And again, perfectionism. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I have spent 7 hours straight in front of the microphone.
Wow.
I did that for the vocals for Without You.
Without You, the one that you completed in one sitting.
Yes, it took me so long. It took no, the 7 hours. That was the final take. Those were the
Okay.
final vocals.
Wow.
But I tried 5 different times to get those vocals. So it's not even 7 hours total. It probably took me like 15 hours total to get those vocals.
Oh my God. I can just say, oh my God, what are you doing? But at the same time, I have so much respect for you, what you do, and how serious you are about what you're doing.
Thank you.
So, I don't know. It's just that, again, for people, we listen to music,
Right.
and, we listen to these songs. They're on the radio. They're on TikTok and things like that. Sometimes we forget that there was a process before we would be able to enjoy it, before we are able to actually learn the lyrics and,
Right.
and remember the song. So I think I'd like to know, how do you feel, or has it happened to you yet, when people actually sing back to you your songs or a line from your song, or they've actually recognized you and say, "Hey, I know your song."
So I was laughing because people have not recognized me like out in the wild. Which I'm kind of glad for because I'm a very private person.
Yeah, I can see that.
But people have quoted my lyrics back to me, mostly friends, because they are subjected to me just like sending my demos and sending my final like masters all the
So
time.
They're like part of your critics circle.
Yes.
Yes.
Although they don't really criticize, which maybe is like a bad thing. But
Well, but appreciation is
Yes.
also like a critic, right? Because
Yes.
they're telling you that they like it.
that is true.
But I'm sure that you also get how they express their love for the song
Yes.
and all that also tells you like which areas you have to work on and which areas you need to keep doing.
Yes.
But when we do our craft, music, poetry, theater, and all of that, real experiences are still underneath. It's always real, and I'm sure that for your friends, when they listen to the song, it's like, yeah, it becomes real for them too. But then I'd like to raise the question of responsibility. Earlier, you mentioned ethics,
Yes.
right? So what stories or whose stories we're telling when we write from life? How do we draw the line of when we write real experiences? It's because they involve other people, right?
Yes.
It can be an ex. It can be, ex ex-boyfriend, ex-partner, ex-spouse, ex-friend, a lot of exes there. We're talking about the painful ones, but of course, a lot are also the great ones, the lover, the spouse, without the ex anyway. Um, of course, they involve people because our experiences
Yes.
are not purely just us.
Yes.
No one's an island. So, how do you think about responsibility or privacy or even consent? Do you even have to ask permission, or if you haven't reached that point yet in your experience as a songwriter? What do you think, or you can share your opinion on how and when should we ask for consent when we are using a particular story for new material that will be made or created by us?
Well, okay, before I forget, I will say that yes, I have asked for consent before, but not from someone who is no longer in my life. So
Yes.
only like, friends who are still like on good terms with me. And for like people who are not on good terms or like, not in my life, I respect their privacy by kind of what I said earlier. Not giving specifics, right? Because you can talk about a certain essence of a story without giving specifics that would be traced back to a certain person or a certain situation. But I will say what I was thinking when you were asking me the question was, I think there is also maybe a very thin line that you have to be careful with. But I think there is a line that we have to draw between like your personal experience and their side of the story, because I think it's unfair to try to tell someone else's side of the story when you haven't lived life in their shoes, right? But for example, if it's about a breakup, don't you have ownership over your side of the story? Can't you tell your own truth? And so I don't think, as long as it's not, traceable like back to the person, it is perfectly fine to tell your own side of the story, because are you just supposed to censor yourself every time you interact with another person and are inspired? Because obviously, like you said, no man's an island, and everything we're inspired by is in part indirectly or directly through an interaction with someone else.
So what was your take when, I don't know, probably too young to remember, but I'm saying that anyway. What was your take when that Kanye and Taylor Swift issue? Do you remember
I
that?
don't remember that. I'm sorry.
Okay, so well, apparently Kanye. So he wrote this song,
Okay.
and that was. Or maybe we'll just skip that anyway. But basically, the idea was he would say that he asked permission to include her name or her in this song. And she was saying that there was no mention that she would be called the B word, in the song or something like that. Well, this was also recorded. Their conversation was recorded without her permission. But anyway, things like that, like you have. I think maybe the better question would be like, where do you draw the line between honesty and harm?
Well, I think you also need to think about the intent behind the song, because if the intent is just to vent out your personal feelings about a situation, okay, like I said, you have the right to talk about your own side of the story. But if it's to attack someone, then that's where, you can get into trouble. So
But would you also think that when talking about consent, okay, I'm going to write. Let's say I'm going to write a play, or in your for you, it would be song. You're going to
Right.
write a song, and it would be based on my experience with this person.
Mm-hmm.
So you call the person and say, "Hey, I'm going to write this song or play,
Right.
and this is inspired by our friendship,
Mm-hmm.
our relationship, or whatever it is."
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't you think that we should also go back and like, "Hey, I'd like you to read the first draft"?
I agree.
That should be part of consent.
Yes,
you know?
because it's informed consent.
Mhm.
Because if you're just asking, hey, can I blah, 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 and you don't tell them what you're going to be writing about or how you're going to be writing about it, that's not informed consent. And I think, I think we can all agree that informed consent is very important no matter the situation.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like when the subject, when the subject is someone you have not interacted with for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess it also just works with celebrities and big
Mhm.
names, when people are
Mhm.
able to identify. But if something very personal, maybe it would be just between you and the other person.
Mhm.
But then, as you said, we fictionalize, and we sometimes can exaggerate even or tone it down, whatever works for the music or for the story. So it's not always 100% like said. It's not like documenting it.
Yes.
It's using that to be inspired to create art,
Mhm.
painting, music, theater, and things like that. I guess the issue there is always how we can make sure that when we are creating art, we are not disrespecting people
Mhm.
who may have been involved in the experience that we have the experience that have caused us to feel
Yes.
whatever that's inspired the music that we are creating.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm blabbering here. Hi to Mario Alcariza. Hi Mario, thank you for watching. For those of you who have just tuned in, this is TMC 105.1. This is Up Next. I'm Sarah Henderson, and I'm still with Kate Livewire because we are talking about songwriting from feeling to form. You know how not anything is just something that came automatically. There's a process, there's a way someone gets inspired and decides to turn emotions to words, to songs, to stories. And so if you have questions, drop them on the comments if you're on Facebook Live. And if you'd like to catch us later, we are on YouTube. That's Tops Media Center because we are here at Tops. It's quite sunny now.
It is.
Yeah, I arrived earlier and it was foggy.
Oh, really?
Yes. Well, I was really early. It was really early, and I'm so glad that I was here to experience that because there's like this just a joke that the weather at Tops changes every 5 minutes.
Really?
And so in a day, you'll be experiencing so many changes. So from the foggy to the really sunny to overcast, now it's quite a nice weather out there. So if you're listening and you want to join us here at Tops, you can take the shuttle from IT Park, and then that will take you straight to Tops and enjoy the rest of the afternoon and evening. Hi to Tita Ditsi Madarazo. Thank you for listening. And I hope you can share your thoughts in our conversation today. This is about songwriting from feeling to form. We're still with Kate Livewire. Earlier, we've played the song. We've already played 2 songs. And that's what
we've done so far.
What we've done so far. And the other one, the one that you wrote in just one sitting without you.
Yes.
Yes. So I guess now I'd like to go from, the work we've discussed about the emotions being written and then being turned to song.
Mm-hmm.
And then from song, you have to go to the studio. Well, in your case, it's your own studio.
Yes.
You've invested in your own. I actually love that.
Yeah.
It's like I guess it also just makes sense that you've identified that works for you better, and you've just went for it.
Mm-hmm.
So from the studio, now your work has to meet its audience.
Yes.
I would like to think that you've decided to come up with an album because it's something you'd like to share with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So let's talk about what happens to those original feelings once they're performed and shared. You perform your own songs.
Yes, I
Yes.
do.
Yeah, come on.
It's it's complicated because like I said, I trick myself into thinking that I'll never share my songs with the world when I'm writing them. And that's why I'm so vulnerable. That's why I'm okay with being so vulnerable. And then I fall in love with the song and I'm like, oh, it's great the way it is. And then I have to grapple with the idea of sharing it with people who don't know me, or even worse, people who do know me, and, being so exposed like that.
Yeah.
But then by then I'm too in love with the song to let it go and to let my own fear get in the way of releasing it. But when you perform it in front of people, which I did, I performed my album last year in November at my album launch party, and my heart was beating out of my chest because I realized, like, that in that moment, I realized, oh, there's no escaping this. It is real.
This is happening.
It's happening. It's out there. People are going to hear the lyrics and they're going to learn about parts of me that I normally
So
don't
true.
share.
Yeah.
Um
Because I would say listening to your songs make me have it's not just understanding, but first gives me an idea of who you are as an artist. Second, it's like, yeah, trying to understand the what's underneath, but never really getting it until I'm able to talk to you. So I'm glad that you're here and you said
glad
yes
to be here.
to being here. But now that you've launched your album and you've had that party, so
Yes.
obviously you've performed your songs. So how did that performance change your relationship to that original feeling that you had before this entire album even started?
I think it made me less lonely
Oh.
because the album, I'll just explain a little bit. The album is about letting go of the past, but not in a way where you're trying to forget it. You're trying to honor it, but you have to live in the present after all. And so the first half, the half that ends with what we've done so far, it's about letting go of the past self. And the second half is about letting go of people who are no longer in your life for whatever reason, whether it's, you fell out of contact, or you had a falling out, or you died. In my personal case, it is because I fell out of contact with a very dear friend. And when I was writing it at the time, it felt very lonely because I was just wondering, like, I was a very young teenager writing these songs. And so I was just wondering, like, oh, like, maybe a bit cliche, but like, does anyone feel the way that I do? Especially with the second half, especially with grief. Because when grief is talked about, it's mostly in terms of death, right? Something very permanent. But you can also experience grief from just falling out of contact with someone.
And they said that grief doesn't really go away.
Yes.
It stays with you, but you just learn to manage it. And I guess part of it for you would be to turn that grief into song.
Yes, exactly.
And now that you've shared your music to the world, what have your audiences taught you about your own work?
They made me realize that, first of all, that I was being way more vulnerable than I thought I was.
Oh, yeah. Well,
because
you did say that you were writing,
Yes.
not expecting to share. So these
Exactly.
would be like the deepest and what would say most personal
Mhm.
feelings that you've written and turned into music. And
Mhm.
I guess we are lucky that you decided to share it with us.
Yes. But the second thing would probably be that grief is something you just have to accept.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be fun ever. And like you said, it doesn't go away and you just learn to manage it. But it is a non-negotiable. You're always going to lose someone or something in over the course of your life, probably several times over.
I think that's the one of the most certain
Yeah.
in life is that we will experience loss and grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose all these experiences and all these emotions shape who we are and
Yes.
how we react and how we interact with other people. So I guess the other thing there is, how is it when these emotions that were supposed to be yours and yours
Mhm.
alone
Mm-hmm.
are now being shared to the entire world, and then they take it as their own
Mm-hmm.
and try to come up with stories and all that. How does that, I guess, how does that validate your writing? I know that you don't care about what other people think, or you're more focused about being proud of your work and all
Mhm.
that. But I guess when we share it to the world, it's like that, it's part of it.
Yeah.
You will always hear how they feel about your own work,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But always there's always that group who will take it as their own.
Yes.
People who would say, this is my story,
Yeah.
and you've written it.
Mhm.
And I guess I'd like to know how you take that as an artist.
I find it really endearing
Mhm.
because the fact that my experience and my writing was able to touch people, and people have talked to me about how it's touched them. It makes me happy because what I used to not have words for,
Mhm.
now I've provided the words for other people,
Oh wow.
So I think it's a big honor to have people come up to you and be like, hey, I really relate to your song. Even if it's not like, oh, it's like literally explaining my life or anything specific like that. If it touches you, then that's amazing because something so personal to me has now become personal to you and has now described how you're feeling and helped you put it into words. And I think that also helps people process their emotions better. Like when we're sad, we like to listen to sad songs. When we're in love, we like to listen to love songs. And it helps you understand what you're feeling, and it also sometimes helps you vent out what you're feeling. So I think it's a big honor for people to relate to what I've written.
So I'd like for our listeners to hear your song,
Mm-hmm.
Bring You Back. So obviously this is this is one of the songs that's being featured in your album,
Yes.
Synlab,
Yes.
which was launched last November. So this is Bring You Back by Kate Livewire.
See the darkness moving in towards my window, and all I see is you, and the way you smiled at the door.
Wow. So obviously, I will have to ask you, tell us the story behind Bring You Back.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, the album has two halves, and this is the last song of the second half. So, the second half is all about losing grief in terms of losing a loved one, and in this case, it was falling out of contact with my first close friend,
Mm-hmm.
like the first person to ever support my writing, the first person to ever support my music. And my friend fell out of contact with me because we met online. So, like it wasn't like he moved away. It was just because I could no longer contact him online. And I wrote this song in 2024. So it was the last song that I wrote on the album. And at that point, it came as a surprise because I thought the album was already done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came up with that song and I was like, oh, thank God we delayed production for like 2 years, because if the album didn't have that song on it, I wouldn't consider it complete. Like it would feel like something was missing.
And you would say that this would be your number one song.
Yes.
This is the
Yes.
top on your list.
Undoubtedly, this is the number one song for me on the album because it's my most favorite. I think it's the thesis, because it summarizes everything I wanted to say in the second half so concisely and so well.
So would you say that this was also the last song that you've completed
in the album.
In the album?
Yes, it was.
And that's when you realized that when you heard it, you know, that this is what you needed.
Yes, exactly.
So there are always those moments when you always think there's something missing, right? And you just can't just point it out. It's like it's not there.
Yeah.
And so when you finally completed this song, it's like and you've had that album. I mean, I'd like to know, how long did it take for you to finish the song?
It took me, I think, just a few months to finish Bring You Back, because I think I completed it in like, oh wait, no, I think it was 1 month, because I completed it in like little spurts of growth.
Was it because it wasn't really planned to be part?
Yes,
but
it
it's
wasn't.
only when it was completed that you've decided it had to be part of the album. So there are always those things wherein you plan and they go well, and then sometimes something unplanned just become better.
Yes.
So that was Bring You Back. And we're still here with Kate Livewire here on Up Next. We're talking about songwriting, from feeling to form, how we transform our emotions and experiences, and we turn them into stories, into plays, into songs, into poetry. And for Kate, being a singer-songwriter, or you would call yourself a writer.
Yes.
But for you, it would be with songs now.
Yes.
I'd like you to go back to your the launching of your album, Synlab. I think I'd like to know why Synlab. I just need to ask that.
Yes, of course. Everyone asks that.
Yeah.
It's because when I was a kid, I used to do these like little games in my head to pass the time. And one of those games was seeing a word or a phrase, and then I'd take out the repeated letters. So Science Lab became Synlab.
Oh, God.
And it just like, I just thought, oh, that's like really interesting. Synlab, like you're creating sins, or you're manufacturing something out of sins. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'll save that for later. And that later was my first poetry book. and I named it SynLab.
So you even have a poetry book.
Well, just a little, a little journal of poems. But then I started, like I said earlier, within a year, I transitioned from poems to songs. And so that poetry book, it became a songbook. And I told myself, you know what? I'm going to make an album one day, and I'm going to name that album SynLab. And so
Wow.
I fulfilled my promise to
And so
myself.
I'm so glad I asked you that question. So for those here who are wondering, so Kate Livewire has launched her debut album, Sin Lab, last November, and they are available online. Can you
Yes.
tell us where we can listen to you?
You can listen on Apple Music or YouTube, or you can also listen on my Bandcamp if you want to support directly.
Great. And I guess for us, we they're just songs that you have to listen over and over, and then they become a part of us. And I think that your songs can easily be someone's part of them. The stories there. I think that we can all relate, and how you have managed to just like fit the words perfectly into the line that actually just describes how someone is feeling. I think that is really a gift. I mean, there's so many artists, and I think one of the things that I say artists, dancers and
Right.
and theater actors and painters and all that. But with music, it's something that we can carry with us, and when someone is listening, we get to remember the lines, we get to sing
Yes.
along. And of course, us as Filipinos plus Cebuanos, we love singing, and so we start like singing these songs that we love. And obviously we love the karaoke,
Yes.
videoke, so we love them. And then we actually they become part of us.
Yes.
It's our culture to be able to sing. I would like you to probably compare, the satisfaction that you get from speaking or saying or reading your poetry and singing your own songs.
I actually, I don't like
Comparing?
I no, I don't
You
like
don't like
reading
out
my poems out loud,
Mhm.
because I think I haven't mastered the art, so
Yeah.
I sound very
Again,
stilted.
that's the perfectionist.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's something more, like, as vulnerable as I am with both forms, I think I'm much more self-conscious with poetry, because ever since I transitioned to songwriting, I haven't worked on my poetry as much.
Mhm.
And so I feel more self-conscious because I'm not as confident in my craft.
I suppose, and I guess when we're not confident, we always think about, we make mistakes,
Yeah.
or then we're being judged,
Mhm.
or people criticize,
Yes.
and then we start to second guess.
Yes.
We start to doubt ourselves, and instead of focusing on what we love to do, we start thinking, about fixing things
Yes.
and all that, and then the fun part is gone. And also, because we don't feel confident, then we start to feel disappointed or
Yes.
frustrated,
Yes.
and again, the joy isn't there anymore. Now, we always say that, as artists, it's like we are proud of what we do. We have created something, it's ours. It comes from places that no one else can go to, because it's ours. And we don't care what other people say, because as long as we're happy, that's number one.
Yeah.
However, I'm sure that there are people that you listen to who give you advice.
Yes.
As a singer-songwriter, who is that person for you?
I have, I'm very lucky to have several. So I would say the number one person I go to for musical advice or feedback is my dear friend Eufric. And he's actually a professional illustrator, but he's also an amazing musician. And I I have sent him so many of my demos and so many of my, like masters or whatever, and just been like, what do you think? What do you think? And he always gives me very good feedback.
How long does it take him to listen to your demo between listening and the giving of the feedback?
Usually immediate. Like as soon as he
Wow.
listens, he gives the feedback. So he's amazing.
Wow, that is amazing. You know.
And it's always very thoughtful and very helpful feedback. So I really treasure our friendship. And the second person would obviously be Stereo, because not only was he the producer for my debut album, he's also a longtime friend. And I appreciate, like, his feedback is also useful and helpful, of course, especially since he's not only a singer, not only a songwriter, but also a producer, and just, a very, like, knowledgeable music lover. But what I love most about his feedback is he's always very honest, but also very kind. So he will let you know what he thinks, but it's never, it's never harsh. It's never rude. And you can always know that, like, when whatever he's saying, whatever critique he's giving, he's saying it because he knows you can do better and he believes in you.
And I guess because of that, the kindness and the honesty, then there's trust.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I guess that's very important when we ask for advice or for feedback. We trust the people who will be giving them. And it's very important for musicians and artists to actually find someone. Can be a mentor, can be another artist who will be there and give us that honest feedback, and not just tell us what we want to hear.
Yes, exactly.
When we just hear, I always say, like, when we have our productions, whatever work we do, if everything is like great and positive, it's like I cannot trust that.
Yes, I agree.
I have to hear the other side.
Yes.
Because there will always be something, because there's always that room for improvement, and we need to hear that. And so I guess it's very important for us to have mentors. Again, mentors or even friends who will just be there to let you know how you can do things better, and then who will support you in that manner. And yes, kindness goes a long way, because I feel like when teachers or mentors are rude, they can discourage people.
Exactly.
As you said, it's like when you're writing, you're on your own, it can be lonely, and because you're being vulnerable and you're sharing all these to the world. But when you have someone there who makes you feel even worse, it's like, wow, why am I doing this?
Yes. Like, why am I sharing
Yeah,
in the first
so
place?
again, I would say that, theater, the arts, music, it is a form of care, and how we take care of our artists, how we support them is our form of care. So I guess now I'd like to ask you the question the show is built around.
Yes.
What is up next?
For me, in terms of music, I've already finished writing my second album. So I'm hoping to get together enough funds to start production on that. And actually, my producer for that will be Eufric, my friend that I mentioned. And I'm really excited for that because I begged him for 7 years to produce it. And he finally said yes.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what's up next for me in terms of music. In terms of other kinds of writing, I'm also working on an epistolary novel. So God knows when that will be done, but I'm trying to make progress on it.
Wow. Thank you, Kate Livewire. And we're looking forward to all your creative endeavors. Do share them with us. We'll be
Yes.
happy to let the rest of the world know. And as we come to the end of this conversation, I keep thinking about how strange it is that feelings which begin so privately, so invisibly, so silently inside the body, can travel so far once they become art. A feeling begins as chemistry, as memory, as sensation. But when someone writes it into a line or sings it into a melody, it becomes something that can move across rooms, across cities, across time. It becomes something shareable. And maybe that's why we keep writing, not just to understand ourselves, but to reach someone else, someone who has felt that same thing and thought they were alone. We often talk about inspiration as if it were magical, as if poems and songs fall from the sky, fully formed, untouched by doubt or labor. But what we've heard today reminds us that inspiration is only the beginning. Art is not just emotion. Art is emotion that has been cared for, revised, given a structure strong enough to stand outside the artist. There is something generous about the act. To turn experience into art is to say, here is what I felt. Maybe you felt this too. It is a form of communication that predates theory, institutions, even language as we know it. It is a human impulse to take what happens inside and make it visible, audible, legible to others. But there is also risk. When we write from life, we are exposing parts of ourselves and sometimes parts of others. We are deciding what to reveal, what to protect, what to fictionalize, what to leave unsaid. Every poem, every song, every story is a negotiation between honesty and care. And perhaps that is part of the artistry too. Not just shaping emotion into form, but shaping truth into something that can be shared responsibly. When art meets an audience, something else happens. The feeling that once belonged to one person becomes many people's. A listener hears a song and thinks of their own past. A reader encounters a line and maps it onto their own life. The original experience transforms again, not just from feeling to form, but from one person's form to many people's meanings. In that sense, art is never finished. It keeps becoming. If you're listening as a student, an emerging writer, a songwriter with unfinished drafts, a poet with lines scribbled in the margins of your day, I hope this episode gives you permission. Permission to write from feeling, permission to share and shape those feelings into something crafted, permission to revise, to cut, to restructure, to experiment, and permission to know that your emotions are not too small, not too ordinary, not too insignificant to become art. Because art is not only born from grand trauma or epic love stories, it is born from noticing, from paying attention to the ordinary tremors of being alive, from asking, what did that moment do to me? What shape does that feeling want to take? Feelings happen. They arrive uninvited. They leave traces in the body and in memory. Art is what we choose to do with those traces. It is how we build something out of the invisible, how we give experience a structure that can be carried, remembered, sung back to us by someone else. Thank you to singer, songwriter, poet, artist Kate Livewire for sharing their process, their reflections, and their work. And thank you for listening, for giving your time and attention to this conversation about creativity, emotion, and form. This has been Up Next. I'm Sarah Henderson. See you in the next conversation.